been felt throughout our Jewish community. We are so appreciative and humbled by your solidarity, your support and your friendship. And for the vast majority of you, that was before Sunday's horrific incident. You have been lifelong friends to us in our community.
Thank you, everybody. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this part of the country, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. Pay our respects and my respects to all the elders past and present, and to all First Nations people here now who are watching or listening. It is a great honour and a real privilege for me, on behalf of myself, my family and my ancestor, to be here in the Great Synagogue of Sydney, to celebrate with you in the spirit of light and unity. To the wonderful rabbis, and to my beautiful rabbi friend Elwood from Newtown, I'm feeling his pain and his sorrow today as well. My name is Michael McDonough. I'm a great-great-grandson and a direct descendant of the late great Uncle William Cooper, a Yorta man born in his ancient country in 1860, and he passed away in Melbourne in 1941. I have a message from 97-year-old Uncle Boydie. He's the last living grandson of William Cooper. I spoke to him only a few hours ago, and I expressed to him that what I'd be doing here tonight. He was so proud, and he wanted me to deliver a message to each and every one of you, a personal message from him, that he stands united with your community and your country, and he wishes you all the best, and his heart is breaking and his heart is aching.
Good afternoon, friends. It's a pleasure as well as an honour to invite you all into our beautiful and holy space, and to say how grateful we are as a Jewish community that our friends come to be with us, especially at a time like this, especially since the events of Sunday. There is nothing that can compare with simply sitting with each other in fellowship and knowing that our pain is shared and that we have your love and your sympathy. And you have given by being here this afternoon more than you could possibly know to the Jewish community, so thank you very much. We gather in this beautiful space, which I've always thought should be a space for all Australians, and thousands of children and adults who come through this space every year to learn about the synagogue, to learn about the Jewish community, is one of our great contributions that we're so proud of towards this wonderful country. And this congregation is a direct descendant of those first Jews, emancipated convicts, free settlers who came together to express their faith in a new world, in a new place, and built a community with its institutions, with its infrastructure, with its care for its own community and for other communities. Anybody who goes to Walker Hospital for their treatment or rehabilitation knows that the Jewish care for the wider community is as powerful as our care for our own community. We meet on the festival of Chanukah, a festival of light, a festival where there is so much light normally in Australia, often the longest days of the year. But we are never content with the light there is. We always seek to create more life, more light, more beauty, more holiness. There can never be enough of those precious qualities in our society. There is always an opportunity to do more. I was invited earlier this week by the Governor-General to attend Admiralty House, where she held a gathering to mark the events of Sunday evening. And I said then what I will repeat now. Every day we light an extra candle. Last night it was 4, and tonight it will be 5, because our duty is to increase the light. And you'll see a 5th candle, the shamash, which appears in the front. That is the servant of the other candles, and that is our role, to be a servant of light, to be a servant of holiness. That is the message I would like us all to take away from this evening. Let's increase the light, let's serve the light, and let's build the light together. Thank you for being here.
I consider it a very great privilege indeed to be here with you in the Great Synagogue, this house of prayer and devotion, and all the more so in this week when the Jewish community has demonstrated its determination amid darkness to keep the light of Hanukkah shining. Today I bring you the sympathy, condolence, love and prayers of the Sydney Anglican community. I honour your dignity, your bravery, your compassion, and I express the friendship and solidarity of Sydney Anglicans with you. My Jewish friends tell me that when there are 3 Jews in the room, there are 5 opinions. And the same can be said for Sydney Anglicans. But Sydney Anglicans speak with one voice when I say that we abhor anti-Semitism, and we will not turn away from anti-Semitism in silence. It is intolerable that over the last 2 or more years you have been terrorised in your homes, communities and synagogues. It is intolerable that you have to employ security guards for your places of worship, education and society, as though this was normal or acceptable. It is intolerable that the streets of Sydney have been filled with voices of threat and violence, and no one has silenced them. It is unbearable that this week you are burying children, parents, survivors of the Shoah, rabbis and community leaders. You deserve to be safe, respected and protected, not just because you are Jewish, but because you are Australians. And we stand with you in opposing violence and hatred, whether motivated from extremist religious, racial or political ideology. In your scriptures and mine, the first words of the Almighty are, "Let there be light." May the light of the Lord God Almighty shine upon you and give you his peace.
Over 40 years ago, the first Hanukkah candle in Korea was lit through Kibi, followed by the lights of IBS and GPNK. Those flames planted seeds of restoration and brought prayers for Israel across the nation. The fruit remains to this day. Every month, offerings for Aliyah and for the Jewish people flow from Korea to Israel. Churches throughout Korea now rise to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. When Hamas attacked on October 7th, 2023, even in the winter cold, Korean Christians gathered at the Israeli embassy to pray and show solidarity. In 2024 and 2025, the streets of Korea filled with believers who loved Israel. In May 2025, a small Holocaust memorial museum was established in Paju through the dedication of Dr. Song of Kibi. Today, we pray that Korea's Hanukkah light will unite with the Hanukkah celebration here at the Great Synagogue, Sydney, and that Korea may be known among the nations as a people who love Israel the most.
It is my great honor to greet you this evening at the Great Synagogue, a place that holds a rich history of Jewish life in Australia. On this special night of Hanukkah, I'm grateful to be here and to represent Korean Christians and pastors in Sydney. In Australia, there are about 140,000 Koreans and nearly 300 Korean churches. December is a very busy season, especially for pastors. So I simply thank all the community and church leaders who have taken the time to be here with us tonight. The video you just watched was created voluntarily by the founders of the Holocaust Museum in Korea, after I visited and interviewed them. Not all Korean Christians have the same stance about Israel, but I want you to know that many people in Korea sincerely support Israel, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and stand with the Jewish people. Korean Christianity, with a history of about 140 years, have a deep love for the Bible and a strong desire to learn. Many Talmudic books have been translated into Korean, and the writings of Anne Frank, Viktor Frankl, the late Eddie Jaku, who was a main speaker of Christian Now event here at the Great Synagogue some years ago, and the late Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs was widely read in Korea. Rabbi Sachs' message, respecting the differences while working together for the good of the world, has deeply influenced many of us. Over the years, I have shared a close friendship with Rabbi Paul Lewin from North Shore Synagogue, and together we have built bridges through cultural events, lectures, shared Shabbat meals, and many educational programs together.
How fitting it is that we can gather here in this magnificent synagogue, such an emblem of the Jewish community of our nation, right here in the heart of this city. To our beloved Jewish community, we say words fail to describe our sorrow and our anguish at the events, not only of the last 2 years, but particularly of last weekend. We mourn with you. Your pain is our pain. Your grief is our grief. We embrace you tonight with sincere love, and we stand with you. I'm saying this on behalf of the Christian community of this nation. We stand with you in absolute solidarity. You have been an outstanding beacon of light to our nation. You've been speaking truth and bringing clarity, bringing opportunity for the listeners to respond wisely and with understanding. May Hashem bless you both, Amir and Tal, and your whole family. May He watch over you as you make your way back to Israel and step into a new season. I'd like to invite you to come and speak to us. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Amir Mahmoud.
Thank you, Peter. Some of you probably heard me saying that I'm a very proud Yemenite. And you know that one of the advantages of being a Yemenite is related to our skin color. It's hard to tell when we are blushing, but we are. And I am. Thank you, Peter. I feel that I'm, ambushed because the whole idea of tonight was to celebrate Chanukah. And before talking about Chanukah, I would like to say thank you to some of the people, some of our friends that join us tonight. First and foremost, I would like to thank Rabbi Elton, the president of the Great Synagogue, the senior vice president also of the Great Synagogue. I would like also to acknowledge the Australian Special Envoy to combat anti-Semitism, Gillian Segal. She just came back from Canberra, where she, alongside Prime Minister Albanese, announced the new steps, and to combat anti-Semitism. And if you will allow me to use your line, this is a very important step forward, and thank you for that. I also would like to thank a very special and dear friend, Dr. Ron Weiser,
You know, ambassadors can be very arrogant. They think that they know everything like this. We don't need any training, and usually what our predecessors want to share with us is not important. But I was told that it will be a good idea to meet Dr. Weiser, and I still recall our first meeting at the Indigo Cafe, Double Bay in Sydney, where he briefed me about the wonderful, wonderful Christian community. He used acronyms that it took me some time to learn. C for I, Christian for Israel, Bridges for People, for Bridges for Peace, and many other organizations. And a few weeks later, I had the honor to meet the people behind the acronyms, to meet Ian Warby, to meet Kit, and to meet Matthew, and of course Barry Rogers. And we had a lovely lunch during which we agreed that we'll start doing something together. And we did. We organized many, many events. The first one we held in Queensland already in August 2022. And a major event was held here at the Great Synagogue. And we did celebrate Chanukah. And the star of the evening was the singer by the name Amin Maimon. Now, I have a question to the organizers. The fact that you decided today to use a professional cantor and a choir, is it a hint that I should not sing today? Yeah. I would like also, of course, Rabbi Isaac, to thank you for, he told when he saw me today, well, wherever I go, I see you. Yeah, but your friendship and your involvement with our friends here in the soul are highly appreciated, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like also to thank my colleagues from the embassy. We have here Ilana. She spent the last 3 days with me, and that was very important. Also my wife. Thank you. You know, Chanukah, as it was mentioned, is about light. And it's about miracles. And I'm sure that Rabbi Isaac will talk about the miracles. The miracles of the two miracles of the great victory of a small group of Jewish people known as the Maccabees. And also the miracle of the dedication of the temple that was desecrated. And miraculously, an oil cane was found, which was enable us to light the Chanukah for not just one day, but for all 8 days. But we not always talk about the bravery and the heroism of the Maccabees. Against all odds, they won the war. And they paid a very painful sacrifice. Matityahu, the father, lost some of his sons. And while I would like to sing with you and share with you some of my childhood memories, I cannot not talk about the Maccabees, the heroes that lost their life last Sunday. Rabbi Eli, the leader of the community, of the Bondi Synagogue community, was reaching out to the murderers, urging them to stop shooting. Whether it was Reuben Solomon, who was throwing bricks, trying to stop the bullies from hitting his own people. But if there is one thing that I've learned during the very challenging 4 years, that we have a very strong community. And yes, you're right, Archbishop. There are, in a room where there are 3 Jews, there are probably 5 opinions.
but the community in a time of need is so united. For the last 2 years, they were supporting me in every possible need. They were supporting each other. And for us, it was so important to be here with the community, to support them, to convey a clear message that you are not alone. We are with you, no matter what. And some of you have heard me say that since October the 7th, some of our friends simply disappeared. I learned a new expression, farewell friends. I found out that we had many of them. But here in this room, we have real friends. Friends that stood beside us, behind us, since October the 7th, before October the 7th, and for that, I wish to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Chanukah is the festival of light. And on Sunday, there were those who were trying to extinguish the flame, the light of the Jewish people. And from here, my message is that no one and nothing will stop, will extinguish our light, our flame. Am Israel Chaim.
Wonderful. Welcome everybody for our first meeting in 2026. John Lockwood here. It's good to see you all again. As you know, and as we've been playing a recording of the Chanukah event at the Great Synagogue in 2025 in December, which was just after the Bondi incident that has taken place, and we didn't hold a meeting in January, although we did have a physical meeting in Melbourne at the Crossway Baptist Church called Light and Hope. So at some stage we'll show you some bits of that as well. But it's wonderful to see you all from across Australia, from the top to the bottom over in New Zealand. I'm still in Tasmania right at this moment, but moving into Melbourne over the next month. We have our usual wonderful rabbi with us to do a welcome in a moment. But just to say welcome to everybody on behalf of the committee of SCAFI and Israel Allies Foundation Australasia, which will be our new morphed name in the not too distant future, as we have finally got to the stage of registering a legal entity that covers all the SCAFI work, and hopefully we'll have its DGR recognition very shortly, so that you can all help us in the education process that is about to happen. But without saying anything else, I want to welcome Rabbi Isaac, good friend of Amir, and he can say his welcome before we get on with the rest of the program. Welcome, Rabbi.
Oh, good. Welcome, everybody. Just reflecting, actually, as we start this new year of 2026. I think this is actually our 7th year of having our monthly Zooms. It's just quite remarkable, and quite humbling as well. Look, by way of introduction to this evening, which is focusing on the terror attack of Bondi, I thought I'd just share some personal reflections with you. In the aftermath of the attack, I immediately flew to Sydney. I was on a plane Monday morning. I've got 2 children living there in Sydney together with my mother. Thank God my children, my grandchildren, who were in the environs there, escaped physically unharmed. When I was with my mother during that week, she actually took out an old photo, And it was a photo of her, my father, my sister and me as young children, probably taken in the 60s on the promenade there at Bondi Beach. And on the back, she wrote in her handwriting, wrote it in German, her native tongue, December 1965, a wonderful beach, a wonderful people, a wonderful country. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and after the Second World War he lived in Vienna, a city that was scarred by Allied bombings and still haunted by lingering anti-Semitism. And in the 60s, my parents made a courageous decision to emigrate here to Australia, where he had a brother. My mother, upon reflection, said to me that that week, when arriving in Sydney, it felt like coming to paradise, leaving behind the devastation and the toxic anti-Semitism of war-ravaged Europe for a country like Australia, defined by hope, decency and fairness. And I think, truth be told, it was Bondi Beach, that veritable Sydney and Australian icon, that symbolised that hope. It symbolised safety, but perhaps it symbolised belonging, and it symbolised a bright future. Unfortunately, today we're confronted with another vision of Bondi Beach, not of a paradise, but of a hell on earth. My daughter, Devorah, who lives in Sydney, is a dietitian at the Heart Foundation, and in the aftermath of the terror attack, she sent an email to her work colleagues, and I just want to share with you a part of it. And she writes, every year my family attends the Jewish Chanukah event at Bondi. For reasons I still cannot explain, I decided to go to a different event that night, and that decision may well have saved our lives and spared my children, 3 young children, the trauma of escaping bullets overhead. My brother and sister-in-law were there, many close friends were there, running, hiding, sheltering their babies under tables, trying to protect them with whatever they had. Our community is broken. My cousin's father, Reuben Morrison, a remarkable man, stood up and tried to stop the terrorists, saving countless lives. He was shot and murdered. My cousin's brother-in-law, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, a gentle and kind soul, was also murdered, along with others, for one reason and one reason only, because they were Jews. She continues, this is not the Australia I recognise, it's not the Australia I want my children to grow up in. And then she concluded the email with a link to donate to the victims' families. I think her short words to her work colleagues are more than I could say about that terrible day. And yet, despite the grief, despite the anger, I remain hopeful. I remain hopeful because on that fateful day, so many ordinary Australians stepped forward to help the injured, to comfort the bereaved and to assist those fleeing those evil terrorists. I have hope because ordinary Australians refused to stay silent. They called upon leadership, the Australian government, demanding accountability, insisting on a national inquiry, a royal commission, and asking how can we confront the rise of violent anti-Semitism and what must be done to stop it. Finally, I hope that in the near future, the words written on my mother's photograph so many years ago will once again ring true, not as a memory of the past, but as a promise of the future. A wonderful beach, a wonderful people, a wonderful country. John.
Thanks, Rabbi. As usual, a story told from the heart, though, and fascinating your family was involved with all of this. And in all truth, it was a shock to all of us what took place at Bondi Beach at that time. So we were all through Christmas and the New Year wondering what the next steps might be. So tonight we've got a couple of testimonies of ones that were either there or affected, and then we have our main special guest speaker, a friend of the rabbis, to talk with us. Rabbi Yossi will be with us a bit later on. But on the I forgot what night it was. January what night was it?
22nd January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the good work of our good friends and alliances, Nain, Reverend Mark Leach, the rabbi himself, our friend at Crossway Baptist Church, which is Dale Stevenson. We decided that we would have a memory night, a night of light and hope for the future. And Mark Leach from Nain had put together a small part of some captured video for of the Bondi event. So we're going to start with that, David, if you would show that, and then we'll move on to one of the young ladies who's going to tell us her story.
Vandals sprayed shocking slurs across homes and torched a car in a display of anti-Semitic violence.
Police have declared a firebombing attack on the Israel Synagogue in Melbourne's southeast last week as a likely terrorist incident.
At 8:30 last night, a group of 20 masked pro-Palestine protesters stormed Israeli restaurant Miznon in Hardware Lane.
Sydney's Bondi Beach, where a mass shooting has unfolded this evening. Police have confirmed 3 people are dead and that
this evening, and we can confirm that 10 people have died in this attack.
Say 2 gunmen opened fire on Sydney's famous Bondi Beach, killing at least 11 people.
Very sad duty this morning to report that 16 people have been confirmed as being killed, 15 innocent people and 1 perpetrator. Speaker, the storyteller, one of the young ladies that was severely affected. So it will go straight to that one.
The State of Australia has declared a national day of mourning. This is not only for Jewish lives, not only for one community, but for the moral wound that terror inflicts on an entire nation. When a government pauses a country to grieve, it is a recognition that something sacred has been violated, that innocence has been shattered, that the line between good and evil has been crossed in a way that demands a collective conscience. It is deeply meaningful that on this day we are speaking together. Because this is not only a Jewish tragedy, it is a human one, a moral one, one that touches the very foundation of civilization, and that brings us back to our shared beginning. We all come from one family. The Bible tells us that all humanity begins with Adam and Eve, one source, one creator, one moral image stamped into every human soul created in the image of God himself. That means every life is sacred and every act of hatred is an assault on that divine image. In our generation, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, one of the most influential Jewish spiritual leaders of the 20th century, a man who guided millions and spoke constantly about the moral responsibility of all humanity, warned that the greatest danger to the world is not only hatred, but the loss of moral clarity. He taught that when society forgets that it answers to something higher than itself, when children grow up without an inner sense that there is a God who cares about right and wrong, the result is not freedom. It is absolute chaos. That is why he fought so strongly for what he called a moment of silence. He urged the government and schools to begin each day with a pause, not a prayer of one religion, but a moment of reflection. A moment for every child to know that there is something higher than themselves, that life has meaning, that good and evil are real, that we are accountable. The Rebbe warned that when a world stops teaching its children that there is something higher than themselves, when right and wrong become options instead of truths, hatred does not stay at the edges. It moves into the center. Violence becomes justified, terror becomes excused, and anti-Semitism finds space to breathe. My father understood this deeply. He grew up in the Soviet Union where faith was crushed and Jews were humiliated for their identity. He saw what happens when a society erases God and replaces him with human power. When moral clarity is lost, human life becomes cheap. And yet, from that darkness, he built a life of faith, generosity, and endless courage. Endlessly devoted to his faith and his people, a strong, loyal friend, a devoted husband, father, an extraordinary grandfather. His grandchildren were his world and his theirs. He filled their lives with love, his presence, stories, and his absolute faith. He lived quietly, consistently with goodness. There are not enough words to contain who he was. But on the night of December 14th, the world met him, not through speeches, but through raw and unfiltered footage. A man who ran towards danger, a father who refused to be silent, a human being who placed himself between evil and others. On that night, at a Chanukah celebration on the eve of December 14th, an armed terrorist began shooting into a crowd of families. People froze, children screamed, and chaos erupted. My father did not run away. He ran towards a gunman, towards a danger, placing his body between bullets and children, confronting evil with nothing but courage and conviction. For 8 minutes he fought, unarmed, against a man with a weapon of death and destruction. He was shot again and again, and still he did not retreat. Witnesses have since come forward saying the same words. Your father saved my life. He distracted the attacker. He drew him away. He gave others seconds they needed to live. In the Bible, we read of those who rise when darkness tries to overtake light. That day, my father became one of them. He fought with the strength of Samson, the courage of David, the boldness of the Maccabees, and in the end, like Rabbi Akiva, he gave his life for the sake of heaven while saving others. And he was not alone. He was one of the many holy souls taken that night. Men and women, mothers and fathers, children, rabbis, grandparents, each one a world, each one a light. My father was not a soldier. He was a grandfather. But he was a man of action, not of slogans. He believed the answers to darkness is not only words but in deeds. In the day since his murder, it's been deeply moving to see leaders and communities calling for a campaign of mitzvot, of good deeds, kindness, and moral action in the merit of those we lost. The word mitzvah is often translated as commandment, but its deeper meaning is connection. When a human being does good, we do not only help another person, we connect ourselves to God. We connect the physical world to something higher. We turn ordinary actions into something holy. feeding the hungry, comforting the broken, visiting the sick, protecting the vulnerable, standing up for the innocent, refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice. These are acts of faith. These are acts of connection. These are ways of bringing God into the world. The ultimate purpose of creation is to take a physical world and fill it with holiness, to transform fear into courage, hatred into love, and darkness into light through the choices that we make. This is how my father lived his life. Quietly, consistently, with goodness and responsibility, and with the instinct to act when others froze. The hatred we are seeing today is not only against Jews, it's against the idea there is absolute right and wrong, against the belief that God sets moral limits, against the very values that allow civilization to exist. History has taught us a painful truth. When hatred of Jews is tolerated, it never ends with Jews. The same forces that justify terror and glorify violence eventually turn against faith, against freedom, and against sanctity of life itself. Once they come for the Jews, they come for the moral spine of society. We are all the children of Adam and Eve, created in the image of one God, accountable to one moral truth, responsible for the world our silence or our courage will shape. Today, light and darkness are no longer blurred. They are facing each other. And the question before humanity is simple. Will we stand? Stand for life, stand for faith, stand for moral truth, stand against terror, stand against the erosion of conscience. My father's final act was not only bravery, it was a message that when evil rises, good must rise higher, that when terror seeks to intimidate, faith must become stronger, that when darkness advances, light must not retreat. We are being called in this moment to choose a side of life. May we stand together as one human family, people of faith and conscience, and may the courage of those who gave their lives strengthen us to build a world of justice, dignity, and light until the day when, as a prophet's promise, nation will no longer lift sword against nation, and the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the sea.
I'm going to ask our good friend, founding Rabbi Rosenberg. We have our other Rabbi, Yossi Friedman, has joined us live. So it would be good, Rabbi, for you to just give a little introduction, and let's have a chat with Rabbi Yossi.
Is he there, Yossi?
I think he is.
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Yeah, hi.
My screen name is Joseph, but Yossi.
Yeah, Yossi's a dear friend. Also, he's my son's brother-in-law, so that says it all, right, Yossi? But Yossi, since that fateful day on December the 14th, really has put his heart and soul into Bondi. He's going to share with you further details, but I would say certainly till last week he was there every single day from sunrise to sunset, comforting people, hearing stories, having prayer vigils, and really giving himself over to the thousands of people that have come, ordinary Australians, to pay their respect. And Yossi was one of the familiar faces they could come to and share a few words and have always a shoulder to cry on. But I just want to thank Yossi taking time out of his busy schedule to share his experiences with us here this evening. Rabbi Yossi.
No, thank you very much, Rabbi Rosenberg, and for having me here to speak with all of you tonight. And I've just come home actually, and you can see I'm quite tanned. Part of the upside of doing what I'm doing is that I've developed a very dark tan. I've never been this tanned in my entire life, but no, it's been no words really to describe what the last 10 weeks have been like. Just the unthinkable tragedy of Erev Chanukah, the day before Chanukah. We're about to usher in the Festival of Lights, when the forces of darkness rose up against us and destroyed us. They really did. They destroyed the physical manifestation of 15 beautiful souls. But yet what they didn't destroy was the spirit and the souls and the legacies of these 15, perhaps shine brighter now than they ever have before. As one of the deceased, one of the slain, Rabbi Eli Schlanger's father-in-law, the head of the Chabad of Bondi community. His name is Rabbi Ullman. As he mentioned in the Opera House to commemorate the 30th day since the tragedy, which was actually a few days after the 30th day, but it was in commemoration of the 30th day. And he got up and he mentioned how, when a soul is in a body, the impact is really limited to that particular body, to that space, to that particular time. But when the soul leaves the body, indeed, that soul can inspire revolution, because that soul can now live on in the bodies and in the lives and the presence of so many others, hundreds, if not thousands of others. And I think about that, and I think about these 15 and the names of these 15s that I've been reading out every single day since that tragedy. And I think about the revolution these lights and lives are causing. Thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have now heard their names across multiple forums. Unlike ever before, the government have put out, New South Wales government have put out a national campaign, one mitzvah for Bondi. I have people of different faiths and backgrounds calling me, Rabbi, what's a mitzvah? And, just the opportunity to now describe one of the basic fundamentals of our religion, of our Torah, the importance of doing a mitzvah, which means a good deed, a commandment from God to elevate the world, tikkun olam, improving our lot and the lot of those around us, has just been such an honor. And really, it's in merit of these 15 who performed mitzvot, good deeds, every day of their lives, and have now truly inspired a movement and a revolution across hundreds of thousands across all of Australia. And you can go to the website. It's a government website. And you can go there and you can read all of the mitzvahs that people have been doing and taking upon themselves. And really, it's this. I mean, this alone is tremendous, because where you focus, that's where you see your reality. What you focus on, that eventually you can bring into the world more of an experience. And really, the idea of flooding the world with light and with kindness, I mean, that has always been the Jewish response to tragedy. And dare I say, perhaps how we've survived this long as a Jewish nation, facing in nearly every generation, I think, except for the past perhaps 75 years, where it's been a bit of a golden age, post-Holocaust, and since the state of Israel, we've really been living in a lucky age until now. October 7, really, but now for us as Australian Jews, December 14, Chanukah. And I think really what this has shown us is that we want to just flood the world with light. That is our answer to tragedy. That is how we go on, we rebuild and we regrow. It's through answering darkness with light. And again, focusing. What we focus on becomes a reality. And if we focus on goodness and on light, then that will become our reality. The world will become brighter. And so that has always been our call in the face of darkness and tragedy. And, I personally, my family normally go to that Chanukah event. Every year we go there. This year we happen not to go there because we just moved homes closer to the location of another Chanukah party in Dover Heights. And so we didn't go to the Bondi one. That being said, my sister-in-law, who is Rabbi Rosenberg's daughter-in-law, married to Rabbi Rosenberg's son, David, she was there with her 3 children. And one of the first things I heard, because I was up the road, I drove through Bondi 10 minutes before the shooting started on the way to the next Chanukah party. I drove through there. I arrived at the one in Dover Heights. Within 2 minutes, the whole place was put into lockdown. We heard maybe there were shooters on their way. Maybe there were shooters in the actual park. We didn't know. Everyone dropped to the floor, told to flee. We had to find our kids. We didn't know where our children were. We had to find them. But then I started to hear about reports of that shooting in Bondi. And one of the first things I heard is that from my wife, that her sister, Shoshana, was there in Bondi. But thankfully, we heard straight away that she had run across the road and sought refuge in a lovely non-Jewish man's apartment. He took in people who were fleeing, and she and her 3 children were seeking refuge in his apartment for a number of hours until David, Rabbi Rosenberg's son, could go and get them. So we started hearing all these things about Bondi, and from the very next morning, I went straight to Bondi Beach, and just to feel it, to be there, as close to the site of the tragedy as possible. And straight away, people came over and said, Rabbi, can you pray with us? And with tears in their eyes, hugging, just wanting to grieve together. And that was really the first 30 days since the tragedy. You know, when all those, you've seen the images of all the flowers, which just grew and grew and grew. We have seen thousands and thousands of people, Jew and non-Jew alike, humanity, really, just the best of humanity, coming together as one human organism, all impacted by this tragedy. And I think that one of the uplifting things, silver linings, whatever you want to call it, if you can even say an uplifting thing can come out of this tragedy, has just been the incredible unity that we have witnessed, where it hasn't made a difference what faith, what background, what the color of your skin, all these external differences has kind of fallen away from just this atrocity which occurred against the Jewish community, but against all of us as Australians. And where we've seen equal amount of shock coming from so many people, and just the beauty of a united humanity coming together with empathy to cry as one, to uplift each other as one. And that's what's personally got me through it. It's just being in that environment. And as hard as it is to literally face the grief and the pain and to absorb thousands and thousands of stories and tears and traumas on a daily basis, the uplifting side has been that we're in this together and seeing that incredible unity that I really don't want to dissipate. And for me, what's kept me going has been this, and the idea that hopefully we can keep this unity going in some way or another. And I'm still present at Bondi. I'm not doing readings every day anymore. I'm doing twice a week, a pre-Shabbat service on a Friday afternoon, and then a Sunday evening service as well for the broader community. We actually had this past Sunday over 300 members of the Iranian community come and stand in solidarity with the Jewish community, singing Persian songs and singing Hebrew songs, and it was just a beautiful inter-community event and humanity, really, and empathy. And that's really what I'm hoping to achieve moving forward. It's, I guess, to move forward out of this first intense period of grief, but move forward together, because we can't allow this event to just happen and then becomes relegated to history books and something that occurred to us. It really has to be something that changes us as a society for the better, where everyday Australians who may not have been vocal up until now, find their voices and say, not under my watch, that I'm going to stand up. And I think darkness grows and these atrocities happen when the darkness, which is really just a few percentage, it's just a small minority. But when they feel they have space, when there is a silent majority who just don't speak up, and perhaps there's a bit of apathy or whatever it may be, but because they feel they have room, they feel that everyone's on their side, and perhaps they think they can get away with these atrocities. And so what I really hope that will come out of all of this is that this unity that I personally have witnessed, and that so many of us have witnessed, and Jews across Australia, I know, so nearly everyone I've spoken to has said that someone has reached out to them in the days following the tragedy to ask, how are you? And just to say that we're in this together. And I've seen people travel from across Australia, from across the world, without even having known anyone who was there on the day. But just to say that we feel for you and we stand with you and we are so deeply impacted by what happened, and that we want you to know that you are not alone. And that's what's gotten me through it. And that's really what I hope will stay, is that this level of empathy and this, we talk about diversity and multiculturalism and I think it's one thing to say, but it's another thing to actually have the empathy to bring it into being. And that's really what I hope will materialize going forward, that this unity will persist and that we will keep coming together. And because the reality is that when one of us is targeted, when one group that makes up this beautiful fabric of multicultural Australia is targeted, then actually the entire garment is weakened. It's an attack against all of us. And hopefully this has been a wake-up call for that, the importance of seeing within what unites us and not what is on the outside, the differences, and perhaps what divide us. And I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with a story about actually two stories about two Uber drivers, two heroes that I've recently met. One I met about 6 weeks ago. His name is Pasha. He's a Muslim man from India. And he arrived December 14. He arrived at 6:39. So 2 minutes before the shooting started, he arrived at Bondi Beach, picking up a passenger. And he recalled how he opened up the boot of his car and someone came and put the luggage in and then ran off. And he said, never in my life have I seen that. Someone who booked an Uber dumps the luggage in my car and then runs and doesn't get in. So he gets out of his car, he's like, what's going on? And then he hears pop, 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 and he looks up and he sees the shooters right there next to him on the bridge. And he can't believe his eyes. And he sees people running in every direction and panicking and falling. He saw people being shot. And he hid behind his car and he waited there until the shooting stopped. And then once it passed, he made a decision. He left his car. He sealed the luggage in the boot and he ran into the park. And he stayed there for 4.5 hours. He was one of the first to be there to help out. And he was there for 4.5 hours assisting the first responders. And he saved, he thinks, between 15 to 20 people on the night. An Uber driver who happened to come, or as I say to him, you were God's messenger, sent to that place at that time to help. And he was there 2 minutes before it started, and he ran into the chaos to assist. His name is Pasha, and that's the story of one Uber driver. And the second Uber driver I met a week and a half ago. It was just before my Friday evening vigil service, which has now been moved from the pavilion area into the actual park itself. And I was preparing myself for that. It was 5:30, an hour before the service was starting at 6:30. And I was sitting at a cafe gathering my thoughts. And suddenly I hear someone behind me speaking to one of the waiters saying, I was shot on December 14. I looked around and I said, excuse me, do you mind taking a seat next to me? Tell me your story. And he's a Christian man from Greek background. And he described to me how he dropped off a passenger also on that night, right before the shooting started, a few blocks away. And then he decided to come to the park and by the bridge because he would often bring his grandson to play in that park. And he wanted to record a little video of himself, a little selfie video that he could send to his grandson. Here's your favorite park. Look where I am. Anyway, he pulls up right there by the bridge in front of the park. He starts his recording when all of a sudden he hears bullets and he hears pop, pop, pop. And he turns around and he can't believe what he's seeing. He's just stuck in his place. He sees people falling, he sees people running. 2 people were shot right in front of him. And he said he couldn't believe it. He was still stuck until a bullet whizzed through his hair and grazed his scalp. Just like 1 centimeter lower, and he would not be alive. It grazed the skin on the top of his scalp, went through his hair. And that's when it jolted him into reality. He said, I've got to get out of here. And he jumps into his car and he ducks while he looks in his camera navigation, reversing out. He flies out and he just drives away as fast as he can. And he calls his brother, and his brother can't even believe it. And his brother said, you must call Uber, tell him what happened. So he does that as he's driving home. He calls Uber, he reports what happened, and then he gets home. And then for the next 7 weeks, he's living with just trauma and guilt. And I must say, I've seen so much guilt amongst people who weren't there, who could have been there, who were there but left moments before. I've even heard guilt of people who were there helping on the night, incredibly heroes. Maybe I could have done more. And there's so much guilt. But and I personally have felt guilt as well. But just hearing him say that he had so much guilt because he said, I didn't do anything. I just left. I fled. I just thought about myself. That's all. And then he said that a couple of days actually before he met me, he said, a couple of days ago, I opened up my bank account and then I see an amount from Uber. And I think I haven't driven an Uber since, I haven't been able to drive my Uber since this event happened. What's this money from? And he calls up Uber and Uber says to him, they say, we wanted to give you an award for your bravery. He said, but I didn't show any courage on the night. I drove away. They said to him, well, actually, you made a call to us. And because you called Uber, you called us to report the incident, we were able to divert all of the other Uber drivers away from that area. You saved lives. You protected life on that night, and you deserve that award. And he told me that with tears in his eyes. And it made me realize, these are 2 stories from 2 Uber drivers. One who ran into the chaos and saved lives. and one who thought he was running away, but actually he was protecting life from the periphery. Courage shows up in different ways. Courage is not the same. We're all different. We all react differently in the moment. But here were two individuals who reacted the way they did, and both of them saved lives on that night. Courageous heroes and heroic individuals, and everyday good Australians as well. And I think perhaps that is my parting message to you, is that I believe in the best that this country has to offer. This country that was a safe haven for my grandparents who were Holocaust survivors, for my wife's grandparents who were Holocaust survivors, for so many of the Jewish community who came here escaping that exact same ideology and hate, came here for a better life, for mateship, for everyone giving a fair go, freedom, human dignity, all the values that we value as Australians, that we value as Jews, the same values, Judeo-Christian values. And the tragedy that we've seen has shaken all of us. But yet what I personally have witnessed has, since that horrific dark night, has really been the best of Australia, has been human beings, regardless of colour and creed and belief or no belief, background, with a common humanity. And that gives me hope, that everyday Australians on that night were heroes, and the heroism takes so many different forms, and I believe exists within each and every one of us. And so that is my hope and my prayer moving forward, is that through looking inside, and I hope that this event serves as a wake-up call, that we can learn from it, that we can remain together, and that by remaining as one, united, that we can defeat this darkness through only focusing and bringing out more light, and also being kind to ourselves, because there's still what you can do in this moment. And what we were doing on December 14, or perhaps what we didn't do, we were all where we were supposed to be, where God placed us in that moment, with our specific capabilities, wherever we were around Australia. And what matters now is what you can do now. And I did mention my own personal grief, and I'll finish with this. And because I wasn't there on the night, and I was driving through 10 minutes before the shooting started. I drove through Bondi. Why was I not there that year? And I struggled myself. Why didn't I go down immediately when I heard? I listened to my wife, against my own kind of inner voice that said, Yossi, go down, be there, help if you can. My wife said to me, Yossi, we need you alive. We don't know what's happening. You need to stay here with us. And I listened to her. I didn't go down. And yeah, again, I was struggling with that. But as someone that I went to speak with someone, I gave myself permission to go and speak with someone as well. And she said to me, Yossi, had you actually gone there, firstly, no assurances you would have even been allowed in. Secondly, it probably wasn't the time for a rabbi anyway. They needed first responders, medically trained people to help. Unlikely you would have done much. That was a little bit brutal to hear. My father is a doctor, so I think I do have some medical background and training, but maybe she was right. But then she said to me, Yossi, had you been there on the night, you would have been facing a lot more trauma and things that you would have seen. You wouldn't have been in the ability to help the way that you did afterwards. So that made me realize that, we're all in the space that we were supposed to be. What matters is what can we all do now? There's a long road to recovery and to healing, and each and every one of us can play a part from wherever we are in whatever way we can, by doing one good deed, by doing one mitzvah, one phone call, by ensuring that we overcome, in Australia, we bombard our culture, our awareness with good deeds and light. When that becomes our focus, that becomes our reality. And indeed, may that become our reality. A world filled with kindness, with empathy, and with only an abundance of good deeds and light, and no more darkness and hate. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Well spoken, Rabbi Yossi or Joseph, whatever you'd like to be called. We just align with you, and it's just been amazing. The response. I think a lot of Christians, in particular, I can speak from that angle, were awakened after that particular incident to stuff that they just didn't believe was happening, even though many of us could see it happening, long before October 7th. It was a build-up of things happening. And unfortunately, even since Bondi, we now still have got incidents that are happening, in Brisbane and other places and schools, etc.
that quite horrify me, etc. Just while we've got you, we might have a quick time of Q&A if somebody's got a question, but I've sort of got a question, sort of, you know, we've today has been the opening of the Royal Commission. Do you think that's going to be a help in rooting out some of the basis of this, or I'll just call it evil? What's your opinion on the things that are now happening and the responses that maybe our police are learning as well?
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I do think it's a step forward having the Royal Commission. This is one thing that the Jewish community have wanted. They've wanted accountability. They wanted answers on the highest of levels as to how this happened, how the warning signs were not heeded, and hopefully this will bring us answers, and also to keep the awareness of the tragedy alive as well. And again, it's not something that is just a quick investigation. It has to be a thorough investigation at the highest level. And that's what the Royal Commission is supposed to achieve. So we hope that it does achieve that. And also, I mean, I hope it doesn't become a platform for hate, you know, that other groups or political groups will try and launch their own attacks and try and paint themselves as victims, as we're already starting to see. So I really hope that it can continue and be carried out in the spirit in which it was called for. And might I add that the families of the victims had to come out campaigning for, whilst they were in the midst of their own grief. It was not, you know, given. It took a number of weeks for this to actually, you know, be granted to us. But I really do. Again, I choose to live in hope, and I choose to hope that this process will be followed through, and that answers will be provided to us. And more importantly than that is that actions will then be taken to ensure that we can live safely, because that is what we all want. We want to just live safely. And the reality that we've had, that we drop off kids to our schools and we attend our synagogues, and we have to have policemen and armed guards and bollards. These are our safest spaces, and yet we need the most robust security. And that should not be the case. No minority, no one should have to live life like that and have conversations with our children about safety and security. And when they come asking us, especially after this event, like my own kids asked me, are we going to be safe in Australia anymore? I mean, these are questions I never thought I'd be having with my children. So anyway, hopefully the Royal Commission will, again, be able to bring some answers, perhaps some closure, but more importantly, action and enforcement to ensure that this can never happen again.
Yeah, well, we agree. Thank you, Rabbi. If anybody got a quick question they would like to put in, we'll allow another couple of minutes before we move on, or a comment that you'd like. Hugh Kitson, who's a very good friend of ours. Hugh, unmute.
I can see you. Yes. Hello. Hi.
Great. I don't know whether you remember, but 10 days ago, my wife and I, we live in Melbourne, and 10 days ago we actually met you at Bondi. And it must have been shortly after that Uber driver came to see you. It was about 6 o'clock on the Friday night. But and our friend Elaine Black, who is part of the Jewish community, my wife and I were Christians. Elaine brought us down to Bondi because we really wanted to be there and to pay our respects and actually take in really what had happened. But thank you for being there, and thank you for all you're doing. We really pray God's blessing upon you and the whole Jewish community in Australia at this really very, very difficult time. So I just want to say that to you. How are you personally?
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for making the trip to be with us. And it meant the world. It means the world that you came to be present on the ground, to show up with your presence. And we really appreciate your solidarity. And again, thanks to you, I'm feeling strengthened by all of you and all of your support, and knowing that we have your allyship and your love, and that we're in this journey together. It's not something that we are facing alone, but we have wonderful sisters and brothers united with us. And that, honestly, is how I personally feel strengthened, and I think how all of us are moving forward. So thank you.
Good. Wonderful. Hillary, you've got Hillary Moroney from the Canberra House of Prayer. You've got a quick question.
Yes, thank you so much. I was just really blessed to actually be able to be up there at the Menorah Memorial praying with others this last week. And I just realized I didn't understand the Jewish process of mourning. Could you help us understand the times and the process and how we can actually be a support?
Well, I think you can be a support just by doing exactly what you're doing, actually. The fact that you are present, the fact that you are reaching out to us, the fact that you are standing beside us, that you're praying for us. That is the most beneficial. In terms of the Jewish process of mourning, Rabbi Reisenberg can potentially explain more, but there's a few stages of grief. Obviously, the most intensive is those first initial 7 days, and interestingly, that was the period that the flowers were by the pavilion. It lasted for 7 days. I don't know if the council allowed it to coincide with 7, if they were aware of it or not. But what we actually did is that we actually kept the space going. So council had cleaned it all away after the 7 days. I arrived there the following Monday, and to my horror, it was all gone and washed away. And that was particularly hard hitting to me personally, and to people who were still arriving with flowers, didn't know where to put them. So we actually, formed a small team, and we, against one of the walls of the pavilion, we kept laying stones. Actually, we turned it into a stone memorial. People could come and leave a stone and write a message on a stone, and it actually became a beautiful. I mean, thousands of stones. Even the president of Israel came 2 weeks ago, and he brought stones from Israel to lay at our stone memorial, which was beautiful. So, we really kept it going for that next stage, which is the 30-day, the shloshim, the 30-day period of mourning. But then really we're considered mourners for a whole year in Judaism. It takes a whole year to mourn. And in fact, more than a year, the loss will persist. You can't bring back their physical presence. And so every anniversary as well, it's called the Yartzeit. Every anniversary of the passing, we also have a moment where we remember, we pray, we give charity. So there's a process to grief, mourning, and ultimately recovery as well, and healing. It's through that process. And so we did try to honor that and mark those steps of the process at the pavilion and more broadly as well.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for helping me understand. And thank you for standing there.
Yeah, thank you. Last question, Melissa Hay from Lionsgate Ministries, and then we'll move on.
I just want to thank you for showing us a better way of reacting than anger and outrage and violence. I'd never seen the response of, and I'll get this wrong, but I'm going to call it mitzvah of the kind act per day. I'd never seen a response to violence like that ever. In all the travel I've done, all the places I've been, it just touched us so much. And I think it's probably the one takeaway I can share with others to say, do you know this is what they do? And it's really arrested people's response because they weren't aware of it. So I'm deeply affected by that response. And I just want to say thank you, Joseph, to all of the community, to giving us a better way of responding.
And thank you for that. And I'll just, my last comments is that I'd like to repeat something that the president of Israel said 2 weeks ago. I actually just saw a snippet of that video this evening at my son's school. They replayed it. But he said the phrase, let's just get to know each other. And I say this because, as a rabbi and having grown up and explored Judaism, but also other faiths, there are so many commonalities. I mean, the essence, the oneness of all of us, we're all crafted and out of that same divine mold. The oneness, we are one. It doesn't make sense, really, hatred, division. And we just need to speak more. We just need to come together more, have a conversation. If you know someone of a different faith or someone different to you, get to know them. And that will automatically, the differences will just fall away. And so I think what the president of Israel was saying is that, for the Jewish people, I think, speaking from our lens, we've been so misunderstood for so long, and this is how we respond to tragedy, and it's a beautiful way of responding. We don't call out for vengeance. We don't call out for hate or condemning, or to attack others. We really just call to flood the world with light, and maybe this is an opportunity that people of different communities can really come together just to explore each other, because we have really a lot more commonality and similarities than we have differences. So maybe again, that's another thing that we can take. But that's something that I personally have witnessed. People of all different faiths and backgrounds just sharing the same essence. But thank you so much for having me on tonight, and I really appreciate this opportunity to bless you all and to be blessed by you and through you as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Well said, Rabbi.
Pearl Goldhurst, her brother-in-law is Ellie Schlanger, and she's got a few words to say about what happened. Yeah.
Right, and then we'll go back to you, Rabbi.
Through rebuilding, we will become comforted. These are the words of the Rebbe, a global Jewish leader, after a horrific terrorist attack that occurred in Israel in 1956. An attack that deliberately targeted young rabbinical students. The Rebbe was teaching us something eternal. When darkness tries to break us, the Jewish response is not to retreat. It is not silence, it is not fear, but rather it is channeling our grief into constructive action. I want to begin with that message tonight because it defines everything Ellie lived for and everything we are meant to carry forward. I am standing here not because I choose to, but because I'm Ellie's sister, and more than anything, I want to help carry Ellie's message into the world. In the hours leading up to Chanukah, the Festival of Light, two sets of father and sons were busily preparing for this day. One father and son were focused on bringing light as they excitedly ran around, helping people connect with their faith. They connected with them, smiling, bringing joy, uplifting souls one by one. That father was my brother Eli and his son. And at the very same time, another father and son were working on their ambitions. They were planning chaos and destruction. They were focused on spreading darkness across the world. One duo worked to destroy and tear the world apart, while the other worked to make the world better. Those terrorists chose hatred and darkness. My brother and my nephew chose love and light. Eli lived by the Rebbe's message, which is, a little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. Eli played many important roles. He was a dear, beloved family member, valued friend, respected community leader, and a dedicated ambassador of the Rebbe. And yet, in each of these roles, Eli was one of a kind. As a rabbi, he had a gift and a special knack with people. He was very perceptive and could sense people's feelings before they even expressed them. Because of this, people gravitated to him, and he instantly connected well with them. Since that fateful day, so many people have come to share stories about Eli with our family. I was amazed by the number of people that he touched so deeply. I honestly don't know how he fit so many people into his life, yet somehow he was always there for his family, for his friends, and for his community. Eli was a deeply loving brother, full of soul, full of fun and humor, and we turned to each other all the time. We were deeply connected. I shared with him when I struggled, and we especially enjoyed sharing in each other's good times. When our children were babies, it showed in the simplest ways. If he was feeding his own baby a meal, he would feed our babies too. And as our children grew older, that care didn't diminish. I remember having a hard day during COVID lockdown. My two youngest children were bored of constantly being home. One morning, when I was complaining to Ellie on the phone, he didn't just listen. He didn't just offer suggestions. He said, okay, let's start a Zoom session and I will entertain them. And he ran a class for my kids and casually entertained them for a couple of hours. He did it with so much love, and he did it even while entertaining his own children at home. He remained deeply involved in our children's lives as they grew older. There are literally thousands of stories of how he helped my children, nieces and nephews, and people everywhere. I wish I could share them all, but time will not permit. Eli lived his life to help others. He was constantly on the road, visiting sick people in hospitals, reaching out to forgotten Jews in prisons, and bringing joy and happiness to everyone around him with his incredible energy. Whenever I was in the car, I knew I could call Eli because he was usually in his car, and we would have yet another fun or deeply meaningful conversation. He spread light not only to Jews, but to all people, which led him to create Project Noah. I'll never forget his excitement when he called me bursting to share his idea. I was so excited and proud of my younger brother and his success. Project Noah became a beautiful program teaching children of all backgrounds the 7 Noahide laws. This code is the foundation of all civilization. It consists of 7 points of light. To acknowledge the creator of heaven and earth, to respect his holy name, to protect the sanctity of life and avoid murder, to respect the property of others and avoid theft, to uphold the sanctity of the family and avoid immorality, to be kind to all creatures and avoid cruelty to animals, and to establish a fair and rigorous system of justice. Over the last few weeks, I've had some time to sit with the question, where to now? Between the waves of pain, there has been a powerful and persistent feeling to go out into the world and spread Eli's light. I will do my best to help make this world a better place. And if there is anything our enemies have failed to understand, it is this: their hatred does not weaken us. It makes us stronger as a nation, closer to one another, and filled with greater love. I use this opportunity to bless my parents, siblings, family, and Eli's precious wife and children to find the strength through this deep and painful loss. I also want to extend a blessing to all the families who have lost loved ones in the Bondi massacre. The Morrisons, Levitons, Bratmans, Tetleroids, Whitesons, Claytmans, Germans, Britvans, Elkayams, Mayers, Smiths, Poganies, and Tretiaks. May God comfort all of us. I know that everyone in Australia has been affected by what happened on Bondi Beach, and that we all need comfort. I want to bless all of you. May you all find comfort and the strength to move forward individually and as a nation. As I said earlier, comfort comes through rebuilding. In that vein, may each of you find your own unique way to bring light to your families, your friends, your colleagues, and everyone around you. Let us follow in Eli's footsteps, where everybody was a somebody, and every moment was an opportunity to make the world brighter. Let us take on one tangible mitzvah, a good deed, in Eli's honor. Make it something simple and real. Make the 7 Noahide laws a part of your life. In addition, consider giving charity each morning, calling someone who may be lonely, visiting the elderly or patients in a hospital. It would mean so much to us and so much to Eli. May we continue to pray for Eli's brave friends who are still in the hospital and are in need of a speedy recovery. May we carry Eli's light forward, together with the light of all of us taken from us, and may Mashiach come speedily in our days.
Thank you. Wonderful. Great. Interesting that a few people are asking for those 7 points of light. And I think, Rabbi, you can speak to that, and maybe another call to return to lantern that we haven't done for a while.
But over to you, Rabbi.
Look, just to conclude, to a very, very moving evening, and perhaps to begin with the immortal words of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs when he said the opposite of good is not evil, the opposite of good is apathy. And he said evil thrives when good men are silent. But what we've clearly seen this evening is a lot of good men were not silent. They spoke up, they acted, and they helped diminish that evil. On a personal note, I'm humbled that my own daughter-in-law, with her 4 grandchildren, were there at the beach in a panic. My son had parked the car somewhere else and he couldn't get back into the park, and they were frantically running, and they knocked on the door of a random stranger who let them in. Rabbi Yossi shared the first part of the story. He didn't share the second part, that he happened to meet up with this gentleman who opened the door. His name was Shale, and he set up a meeting, my daughter-in-law and the 4 grandchildren, and 2 of the boys, the twins, a very moving video. They presented him some flowers and a token of appreciation. And Rabbi Yossi asked him, "Why did you do it?" And a simple fellow says, "Why did I do it? People need my help, whether it's Jew or Gentile. They're knocking on the door. I opened up my door to them. I opened up my door to them." And the other, just to add a bit of context, David, Jack shared with us the video of the Great Synagogue earlier in the evening, and I just take, as we start the year, David, I just want to thank you for your tireless work, which many times goes unrecognised, but certainly on behalf of all of us, thank you. You put a lot of effort into getting that video together that night. So that evening was scheduled. It was the 5th night of Chanukah. It's an event that Stephen Green and myself had pioneered a number of years ago, and it was resurrected, if you will, by a good group of Christians this year. So on Monday, which just in the aftermath of that event, we had 150 people registered. By the time Thursday came of that week of the terror attack, over 500 people had come. Again, all Christians, many of them leaders. And in particular, the Anglican Archbishop, Raphael Kanishka, also came and shared a few words there in the synagogue. The rabbi of the synagogue pulled me aside afterward. He said, "You know, we've been here at the Great Synagogue for over 150 years. I think the Anglican Church down the road's been there probably a bit longer than us, and in nearly 200 years, nobody's ever stepped foot in this synagogue until now." How remarkable that this event has sort of brought about the best in people, that we open our doors to strangers, that leaders, great leaders of the Christian church, have walked across the road to their Jewish brethren to shake hands and show support. And I think that's been in 2 incredible good things that have come out of this terrible attack. But I think truly for all of us, we must, each one of us can do something. And yes, we've spoken about a mitzvah. On one hand, it means a commandment, but really a mitzvah means to connect. We connect to Hashem. And the best way we connect to God is by connecting to people. So we have a wonderful Jewish custom that in our homes we have a charity box. It's called in Hebrew a tzedakah box or a pushka. And every day we actually put a coin into this box, and when the box is filled, we give it to a charity of choice. So perhaps I could suggest everybody get themselves a pushka, a tzedakah box, and put a small coin in there. If you don't have one, reach out and we'll get somebody to send you one. But the main thing is, let us keep goodness shining, and certainly we've got off to a great start in what I believe is our 7th year, and please God, we should go to strength, And thank all of you for your support over these many years, and God bless us all. We should hear good news with a true peace in the Holy Land and the Middle East. Laila Tov. Shalom, Am Yisrael Chai.
Yes, we agree. Thank you, Rabbi. Wonderful, wonderful way to finish the night. Great that we had the Rabbi with us talk. That was fantastic. That he was with us as well, and the way that the Jewish people have learnt to handle mourning is just a great example. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for tonight. I noticed some of our Perth people coming on an hour later, but we will get our times right. We will be telling you more about the Israel Allies Foundation Australasia. We have a number of planned events live, and we'll do Zoom events. Some of you would know that the new ambassador, Hillel, what's his second name?
Newman.
Yeah, has arrived to the embassy in Canberra, and we will be doing a live event with him, and we will also have him as a guest on SCAFI IAFA, as we will be merging those two together. So by way of closing out the night, just a very big thank you to all those people. Wonderful that the example of a mitzvah is just reaching out to another person each day that you can help, support, give an encouraging word to, save a coin, help a charity, and walk with us as we come together, more and more, Christian, Jew and Gentile. We appreciate your time and all that you are doing in your own backyards and communities. So from the SCAFI board and from the Rabbi, good night, shalom, blessings. Unmute and say good night.
Good night.
Shalom, shalom. God bless you. Good night. Bye-bye. Shalom. Bye-bye.
Thank you.